Forensics. Joining us this morning to talk more about it, Joseph Scott Morgan, Distinguished Scholar of Applied Forensics at Jacksonville State University. Always good to see you. I like what you have to say about these cases when it comes to the evidence and the DNA. So we've got a mask, we've got gloves, we've got clothing, we've got computers, we've got a knife. We don't know if it's the murder weapon or not. Is this enough to tie him to the murders?
Potentially, Marni, and thanks for having me. It's always great to be with you. Yeah, so specificity, right? You look for those scientific tiebacks or biological tiebacks to places and persons in these particular cases. And certainly DNA is one of the things that you're looking for. Is there some type of unidentified DNA that might be on any of these items that they could trace back to that infamous night in Idaho? And again, don't want to go too far off into the weeds with this, but let's understand that this was such a horrible crime at that particular time. It's given a lot of people pause, particularly in my area of investigations, to think that, is there any chance that he might be involved in anything else, perhaps in Pennsylvania or that area of the country? And so I think all of these tips, all of these leads, everything is going to be exhausted. If they have unidentified DNA in other cases, perhaps, they'll be looking at some of these items perhaps as well.
So you're talking about a possible serial killer.
Well, the tiebacks here, I think, are significant, and you have to look at that. You have to explore it, because this is not like this was kind of a one-off event where you have a single standalone victim that was taken in an isolated area. You've got 4 people. That's a very bold move. And there's many people out there that believe that there could potentially be, I don't know, tiebacks to other things that may have happened in that particular area of the country. You cannot just, brush your hand through the air and dismiss that possibility, given how horrific these crimes were in Idaho.
So then you'll ultimately have kind of 2 different investigations going, one specifically to the 4 Idaho students, but potentially trying to cross-reference any other unsolved cases. What's the process of doing that? The unsolved case part.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. You would want to look and see if you have any cases in that immediate geographic area that, first off, from a profiler's perspective, which I am not one, the nature which crimes were committed, or is there any similarity to those horrible cases in Idaho? And then you're looking for physical evidence that might have tiebacks. Say, for instance, if there's anything that was left in that home in his space. He hadn't been in Idaho a long time. I think people forget about that. Is there anything in that space, in that home in Pennsylvania, that might tie him back to, say, unidentified DNA from cases out in that region that he kind of came from?
And that might be critical when they're looking at things like notes that they seized. They seized 4 laptops as part of the warrant, a cell phone, some other electronic devices. So what types of trail would they be looking for in some of the electronic information?
Well, I mean, just as the team, put together the piece about Murdaugh just a moment ago, we looked at that case for a long time. We thought about physical evidence. Hey, the digital evidence in this day and age in which we dwell is almost insurmountable when you begin to look at the footprint that's left behind, the tracking of an individual, how they move about, where they were at very specific times. And that's critical, because numerically, that's very hard to kind of defeat in court when you're looking at something. You can have physical evidence that might place you there, but when you have this kind of digital footprint that's left behind, that's hard to escape, because that's real-time data, that you're looking at. And so if he's carrying a phone around with him, if he's making contact through emails, he's searching on any kind of social media, maybe he's tracking people, maybe he's going on to message boards and disguising himself and talking about things that are very specific to cases, maybe fantasies that he's living out. All that stuff it'll come out eventually, and it'll come back to haunt you if you're a defendant in a case like this.
Well, thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider, and don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.